On a cold, windy morning at a lonely Arizona truck stop, June fixes a stranger's broken mirror, and he promises to repay her kindness. Weeks pass with no word until a convoy arrives bearing a package that changes everything. What was meant as a simple favor becomes a powerful reminder that sometimes the clearest view comes not from the road ahead, but from the unexpected kindness we share. Hit like and comment where you're watching from. Your support brings more amazing stories. Now, let's begin. The wind pushed against the diner windows like a restless memory trying to get in. June stood behind the counter, sleeves rolled up, pouring fresh coffee into the same cracked mug she used every morning. Her fingers moved by habit, but her eyes lingered on the empty booths. She had grown to love these quiet openings before the truckers came, before the day demanded anything. Just wind, coffee, and silence. That morning, the silence broke. Headlights swung across the frosted window as a beat-up Peterbilt rolled into the lot. It groaned to a stop like it had been driving since the 1970s and only recently remembered how to quit. The mirror on the passenger side dangled by a thread of duct tape. The bumper hung crooked like it had hit something and decided not to complain. She watched the man climb out. Late 50s, heavy boots, heavy coat. He moved like someone used to being ignored. But his eyes, quiet, deep, caught hers just long enough for her to feel something shift, like she'd seen those eyes before. Maybe in a dream. Maybe in a version of her life that didn't happen. He sat at the counter. "Coffee?" she asked. He nodded. "Eggs, too, if they're hot." "They're always hot." He smiled faintly. "No thanks. No small talk. Just hunger and fatigue." As he ate, June glanced outside and saw him fiddling with the side mirror between bites. Stepping out, braving the wind, taping it again, failing. The duct tape flapped like a flag of surrender. She grabbed her gloves and a wrench from under the counter. When she reached him, he didn't look surprised. "You won't make it far like that," she said, voice slicing through the cold. He tightened the tape. "Far's exactly where I need to get." They worked together, her hands steady, his trembling slightly. He didn't say why he was in a rush, and she didn't ask. Some silences were sacred. When they were done, the mirror stood straighter. Not perfect, but stronger. He stood back and looked at her like he wanted to say something real. "If I make it there in time, I'll send you something." "A promise." June chuckled. "You truckers say the sweetest things." But as he drove away, she watched the mirror. It held firm, like it knew the weight of a promise. The days rolled on like they always did, stretching thin across the empty highway outside June's window. 3 weeks passed since the morning Jack rolled in. She never caught his name that day. Not officially, but something about him stayed in the way he barely spoke or how his eyes softened when she handed him the wrench. June had seen 1,000 truckers, but he left behind a silence louder than most men's presence. She caught herself looking out the window more often now. Each time headlights approached, she half hoped it was him again. Maybe with a postcard, maybe just another cracked mirror, but none of the drivers who came in wore that same quiet grief in their face. None of them looked back at her the way he had. By the third Sunday, fog hung low over the diner parking lot. It was the kind of morning where sound felt muffled and even the coffee seemed reluctant to steam. June unlocked the front door and turned the sign from closed to open. Not expecting much. Sundays were always slow. Then came the rumble. She heard them before she saw them. 3 trucks pulled in one after the other. All newer models, clean, sharp logos of the same company stamped on their doors. That alone was unusual. Convoys almost never stopped unless there was a wreck, a snow delay, or a plan. June stepped out from behind the counter as the lead driver walked in. He was young, maybe late 30s, but he had that stiff posture of someone carrying weight that wasn't his. "Morning," she said cautiously. He nodded. "Are you June?" She froze. Her name on his lips felt like a cold hand to the chest. "Yes," she said slowly. He motioned to the others. "We're with Western Continental. One of our drivers passed through here. Name was Jack Holloway. Drove unit number 4079. Her breath caught. The younger man continued gently. "He passed 2 days after leaving here. Heart gave out just outside Amarillo. He didn't suffer." June felt the stool behind her before she sat. The air had left the room. "But he left something for you," the man added. He stopped in Amarillo and handed off a sealed box. Told dispatch it was a promise. They placed it on the counter, a medium-sized package, hand-addressed. No return label, Just one line. To June, for helping me see. June waited until the convoy had gone. She stood in the middle of the diner, holding the package like it was something alive, something sacred. The weight in her hands felt heavier than it should have. Not just in ounces, but in meaning. Her name written in thick black marker stared up at her like a whisper that refused to fade. She carried it into the back away from the eyes of her regulars who were just starting to trickle in. No one asked questions. Maybe they could sense the shift in her. June set the box down on the counter near the coffee station. Her fingers trembled slightly as she peeled back the tape. The cardboard opened with a soft rustle, revealing two things inside. The first was a letter folded neatly with "Read me first" written across the front in careful handwriting. The second item lay beneath it, wrapped in cloth, fragile, polished metal peeking out. She opened the letter. June, if you're reading this, it means I didn't make it. No big surprise there. My ticker's been acting up longer than I've been admitting. But I made it farther than I thought I would because of you. You didn't just fix my mirror. You reminded me I was still seen, that I mattered. You probably think it was nothing. A few minutes in the wind, a wrench, a kind word, but it stayed with me the whole way. June swallowed hard, her eyes already burning. I've been driving for 35 years, seen 1,000 sunrises and 1,000 strangers, but not many stayed in my mirror long. Not many made me feel like I still existed outside this rig. You did. So, I had something made for you. It's a mirror. The kind we both know you don't really need, but I had them engrave something on it. Something I couldn't say right to your face. June carefully lifted the wrapped object from the box and unrolled the cloth. It was a custom truck mirror, clean and used, gleaming silver. Across the bottom edge, etched in perfect script, sometimes the clearest view is the one someone gives you. Her breath caught. She held it to her chest like maybe if she squeezed hard enough, the wind would return. The coffee would still be steaming and Jack would be sitting at the counter smiling that quiet, tired smile. June did not put the mirror away. She wiped it clean, polished the chrome until it caught the light just right, then hung it behind the counter, above the coffee machines where the morning sun hit it first. She drilled it into the wooden beam herself, hands steady, eyes misting. Customers asked about it, sure, but she never rushed the story. When it came in soft tones, never exaggerated, never polished, just true. Jack Holloway. She finally knew his name. Every detail she had overlooked during their brief exchange now flooded her memory. How he sat slightly sideways like the weight on his chest made breathing uneven. How he never once looked at his phone. How he left behind a $10 tip on a $6 breakfast scribbled on a napkin. Thank you for noticing. June carried that memory like a lantern through the quiet days. The diner started seeing more traffic. It was subtle at first. Just a few more trucks than usual, but word spreads fast among those who live on the road. Rumors turned into curiosity, and curiosity brought them to the woman who fixed a stranger's mirror in the wind and got a mirror in return. Some came just to see it. Some sat and stared at it while their coffee went cold. Others asked if they could touch it like it was some kind of relic. One man, older, bald with tired eyes and oil under his nails, asked if Jack had smiled when he left. June nodded. That's good, he said quietly. He hadn't done that in a long time. Turned out Jack had no wife, no children, just the road and the handful of drivers he used to convoy with over the years. They came one by one like pieces of a scattered puzzle, each with a story, a joke, a memory. They didn't mourn loudly. They sat in Jack's usual seat, ordered his usual eggs, and left a few extra bucks beside their cups. June never asked them to. She just kept the mirror polished. And every now and then, when no one was watching, she'd catch her own reflection in the glass, noticing how much older she looked now, and how for the first time in a long while, she didn't mind. It felt like someone was still riding beside her, just out of view, but always there. By Thanksgiving, the diner was never empty. Truckers came from all corners of the country, some out of curiosity, some by accident, and some who had heard whispers over radio channels between midnight hauls. They talked about a mirror, a promise, and a woman in northern Arizona who once stopped the wind with a wrench and a soft voice. June never advertised it. She simply kept showing up at dawn, brewing coffee before the sun rose, and greeting every stranger like they were already part of something. She replaced the bulbs above the booths, fixed the old jukebox, hung up photos truckers mailed her, dusty rigs parked under stormy skies, snapshots of sunsets taken from rear-view mirrors. The diner, once a quiet place for grief, now breathed with movement. One snowy morning in early December, a young woman came in alone. She wore her father's old jacket and carried a photo Jack, in his younger years, smiling beside a rig. "He was my uncle," she said. "I never knew him well, but he left me a voicemail that morning he left here. Said he finally felt like he was heading somewhere that mattered." June said nothing at first, only pointed toward the mirror above the counter. The girl stared, lips parting slightly as she read the words, "Sometimes the clearest view is the one someone gives you." Tears formed, but she smiled. "You gave him that," she whispered. "No," June said gently. "He just needed someone to remind him he was worth seeing." That night, after closing, June sat in the corner booth where Jack had once eaten his eggs. She brought no food, no coffee, just the silence. The mirror caught her reflection in the dim light, soft and a little worn around the eyes. And behind her, in the mirror's frame, the diner glowed. Not just from lights or warmth, but from meaning. Every plate served, every story shared, every hand resting on the counter was part of something Jack had started. A life moving forward because one man kept a promise, even when he could not stay to see it unfold. June smiled. For the first time in years, she wasn't looking back. She was looking ahead. And the view had never been clearer.